Greetings and salutations, fellow book readers. This is Mark, and the book I will review today is Notes from the Underground. I read an English translation of it, and also I listened to the audiobook of the original Russian version. My Russian is not very good, but I enjoy the sound of the Russian novels in its original language. Before we continue, this is personalized limited edition of the Notes from the Underground with leather cover designed and made by me. At the end of the video, I will tell you a couple of ways of how you can get one for yourself, if you are interested. Now let's get back to the review. Notes from the Underground is a short novel written in 1864 by Fyodor Dostoevsky, the great psychologist of the classical literature, and the book is considered one of the first existential works. Existentialism explains human existence through human nature, rational and practical as opposed to spiritual and mystical. Basically, it means here and now, and what you see is what you get. Notes from the Underground, together with Crime and Punishment, are my favorite Dostoevsky novels, but there are so many other great works written by him. Dostoevsky is considered by many the greatest novelist of all time. His main focus was human psychology and how it dealt with social conditions of the 19th century Russia. But his subjects transcend national and cultural borders, and readers connect with them worldwide, and that's what makes his novels so popular. What is Notes from the Underground about? It is about what happens when you see the world around you as the enemy. The book is the inner ramblings of an isolated, bitter man and his recollections of the sinister interactions with the people around him. Basically, it is an analysis of isolation and self-loathing and its consequences on one's life and relationships with others. It is clear to me now that owing to my unbounded vanity and to the high standards I set for myself, I often looked at myself with furious discontent which verged on loathing. And so I inwardly attributed the same feeling to everyone. Now let's do a brief summary of the book. I will not go into any details, only generalities, in order not to include any spoilers. If you want the details, you will need to read the book. It is short and goes down fast and easy. Well, actually, it doesn't go down fast and easy, and it will make you think, question, and compare. Okay, the story is told in the first person by a fictitious unnamed narrator, but we can call him the Underground Man, and it takes place in St. Petersburg, where our hero is some kind of a lower public servant. The book is made up of two parts. The first part is a theoretical monologue by the narrator, and the second part shows practical application of the principles stated in the first part. The book begins with self-introduction by the narrator. I am a sick man, I am a spiteful man, I am an unattractive man. This is the first line of the book, where we get the feeling for the underground man's dark and disturbed character. In the first part, the narrator argues against utopian practices by arguing that taking away pain and suffering will make man unhappy, and equates removing unpleasant feelings and experiences to taking away man's freedom. He states that people who are suffering like to spread their pain around, since this lets them connect to others. Further, he mentions that through his thinking and interior monologues, he has become inactive and lazy, and his life unhappy. He admits that not all people are like him, but others do exist. The Underground Man criticizes the idea that all the events are already predetermined by the previously existing causes, and he argues against the use of logic as guide for the human behavior. To prove his point, he gives an example of people who act irrationally and not in their best interest just to validate and affirm their existence as individuals. In part 2, titled Apropos of the Wet Snow, the Underground Man reruns 3 episodes from the earlier part of his life to illustrate his beliefs. The first episode is about planning a revenge against an officer who once disrespected him and how it affected his life. The second episode takes place at a going-away party for one of his old friends, or more appropriate word would be acquaintance, since I don't think the underground man is capable of seeing anyone as a friend. The party ends in a brothel where he meets a young prostitute named Lisa. In the third episode, the underground man spends a night with Lisa and draws her probable future if she continues on the current path. She gets scared and decides he is her only salvation and takes his address when he offers it to her. Back in his place, the underground man becomes regretful and panics as he realizes that Lisa might actually visit him, and when she does, he drives her away. In the end, he blames his spite for the society for all his shortcomings and actions. I have merely carried to an extreme in my life what you have not dared to carry even halfway. And that's the basic plot. Now, what do I think about the Notes from the Underground? Well, I enjoyed its existential dilemma seen through the eyes of your average mortal. Who is the underground man? People seem to have the tendency to naturally connect the narrator with the author, and sometimes it makes sense. However, in this book, I am having a problem of making the connection. To me, the narrator doesn't seem to be real, but is a collection of human feelings, fears, and phobias. He seems to be invented for the purpose of the story, and it feels as he's there to show us that there is part of the underground man inside each one of us, occasional for most, but all the time for some. It was from feeling oneself that one had reached the last barrier, that it was horrible, but that it could not be otherwise, that there was no escape for you, that you never could become a different man, that even if time and fate were still left you to change into something different, you would most likely not wish to change, or if you did wish to, even then you would do nothing, because perhaps in reality there was nothing for you to change into. The book is titled in Russian Zapiski iz Podpolya and translated as Notes from Underground or Notes from the Underground, since there are no articles in the Slavic languages. I myself prefer the latter because I consider the title to refer to the dark place inside each one of us, the underground inhabited by a little underground man, where most of us do our best not to visit, try hard to keep it hidden and away from the public, or even admit to ourselves it exists. The underground man in the novel at times doesn't seem to be a man but a mirror we are looking into, with apprehension to see if there is any part of us inside the reflection, and we are hoping to see none. Maybe what Dostoevsky wanted is for each reader to compare himself or look at the underground man to see if he can find one inside himself, and maybe this is the question each one should ask himself. In every man's memories there are such things as he will not reveal not to everyone but perhaps only to friends. Then finally there are such as a man is afraid to reveal even to himself, and every decent man will have accumulated quite a few things of this sort. Notes from the Underground can be a difficult book to read. There are many ideas packed into a few pages. The book seems to be a preparatory work where Dostoevsky created a base personality for his future grand protagonists. I can see some underground men in Raden Raskolnikov from Crime and Punishment and in Brother Karamazov, where our hero appears in various doses in each member of the Karamazov family. Looking at the larger picture, there is an indirect message coming from Dostoevsky warning us about the consequences of the utopian theories popularized through the 19th century. Specifically, Dostoevsky seems to rebuttal the message from an earlier novel called What Should We Do?, which called for the establishment of utopian socialist society, and it inspired the disastrous social experiments of the 20th century, such as the Soviet Revolution and its later rule, full of pains and suffering for the individuals. The underground man makes fun of some Enlightenment theories, which were the foundation for the future utopian states, and he seems to blame those theories for his own current state of unhappiness and anxiety and general confusion in the absurd world of the existentialist. There are continually turning up in life moral and rational persons, sages and lovers of humanity, who make it their object to live all their lives as morally and rationally as possible, to be, so to speak, a light to their neighbors simply in order to show them that it is possible to live morally and rationally in this world. And yet we all know that these very people sooner or later have been false to themselves, playing some queer trick, often a most unseemly one. To sum it up, Notes from the Underground is not your typical existential work. It talks about the existentialism, but indirectly. Maybe because the existentialism itself has not been well defined yet, Dostoevsky is there with Nietzsche and Kierkegaard as one of the pioneers who put the existential questions on paper, but the other two were philosophers first, and Dostoevsky was a fiction writer, and perhaps that's where the different style of expression come from. Also, Notes from the Underground is one of those works that have been beaten to death by the academics and overanalyzed and overcomplicated by writers, psychologists, sociologists, and everybody else, and each one insists on having some intimate, unique understanding of the novel. For me, the only one who could explain to us the underground man is Dostoevsky himself, and unfortunately he has been dead for a long time. On the other hand, let's not dismiss the Notes from the Underground as a 19th century fiction, since it is more relevant today than ever. The today's underground man is more angry and vengeful with means to act upon it. The internet, and specifically the proliferation of the social media platforms, has given voice to many underground men, and they seem to be all around us. Just take a look at some comments on YouTube. What other works I find similar to the Notes from the Underground? The 19th century Russian literature seems to have a few characters similar to the underground man. There's one in Tolstoy's The Death of Ivan Ilyich, Gogol's Diary of a Madman, and one I really enjoyed is Oblomov by Ivan Goncharov. But my favorite one comes from the French decadent movement, specifically Against the Nature by Joris Karl Huysmans. I think I already reviewed this book, but I am not sure if I have published it. In the closing, one can say when reading Notes from the Underground, to fully appreciate it you will need to think, but you have to be careful not to overthink it. Man is preeminently a creative animal, predestined to strive consciously for an object and to engage in engineering. That is, incessantly and eternally to make new roads wherever they may lead. Okay, let's talk about the physical book. The book I am holding is a paper bag which I transform into a hardcover leather-bound edition. To make the cover, I use grade A naturally tan hide I buy from a tanner in North Spain. It is the same leather Louis Vuitton uses to make his bags, so it is top quality. I do all the processing of the leather myself. First, I designed the cover, and what I did here, I took this abstract painting of a man inside a man, and I thought it related to the idea of the underground man as I understood it. This is the bag with the blurb, and inside front cover I printed that quote from the book. If you want to see a more detailed video where I explain how I transform paper bag into leather covered hardcover, click on the link in the description. I will make a maximum of 100 editions of each title. Each one will be numbered and initialed, and the numbers will go in chronological order from 2 up, since number 1 stays with me. The price will be around $100, So if you would like me to make one for you, you can click below on my email and send me a message. I do not guarantee I will do it, since it will depend on the time I have available, access to the letter, and if I can get my hands on the copy of the book. Now, if you are not willing to spend $100, but you still want the book, what you can do is click below on the PayPal link and donate $3 or more to my channel. And for every 100 donations, I will make a lottery and draw one name. And the winner will receive the book. So if you are cheap but feel lucky, this might be the way to do it. Also, your donations give me the extra motivation to make the book reviews, and I appreciate them very much, so thank you in advance. One more thing, when you make your donation, remember to include the title of the book you would like to win. The book itself is beautiful. Visually, it has a very nice texture, it smells great, and the more you handle it, the more beautiful it will become. And it makes a great gift for yourself or somebody who appreciates books. So if you want one, don't snooze or you might lose. Well, that's it, so let's end it here. And until next time, keep your ear close to the ground and read a book. Adios.